Hello, friends. This is Dave Hurwitz, executive editor at ClassicsToday.com with special guest star. Come here, honey. Come here. Finster. Yes, she was up for a visit. I know we have to let you go because she hates being carried like this, although she's not as neurotic as Mildred. Thank you for stopping by. I appreciate it. Yes, you're a good girl. Okay, so what are we talking about? Remember I told you that I would be covering Deutsche Grammophon's new, old, repackaged Bruckner Symphony Cycle with the Vienna Philharmonic. Now, this is the remarkable thing. The Vienna Philharmonic, for all its association with the music of Bruckner, has never recorded a complete Bruckner cycle under a single conductor, because the Vienna Philharmonic technically has no single conductor. It has only guest conductors, basically. I mean, the way it's been operating really since like Mahler's time. It's the orchestral version of the Vienna State Opera Orchestra. It's all the same big pool of players. And their orchestral season traditionally was rather short, and they hired conductors for individual concerts. And that's sort of what they still do, more or less. And so you're going to wind up with different conductors doing different symphonies. The interesting thing about it is that Decca Eloquence put out a Vienna Philharmonic Bruckner cycle, anticipating this one, because Australian Eloquence is run by Cyrus Mayer-Holmgee, who has about 50 times the brains of just about anybody else at Universal. Really, it's the truth, and does wonderful work. Now, this cycle shares some of the same performances with this cycle because there's only a limited amount of Vienna Philharmonic material available, especially in the earlier symphonies. So we need to compare them and see, which is common, which performances are common to both. Let me say straight out, this is an excellent box. This is a very good to excellent box. There are no terrible sort of bow wow, horse neighing Bruckner performances in here. There really aren't, but they're not the same. So number one shares a performance, Claudio Abbado, with a Vienna Phil, because the Vienna Phil doesn't do number one very often. Of course, this doesn't count the more recent cycles with like Telemann and the Vienna Phil, which is just horrible in every possible way. So it's a very fine performance. Abbado had a feeling for Bruckner's first. He recorded it multiple times in multiple versions, and they're really, really good. So whichever Abbado you get, this is great. I wonder if it's the same Abbado. I'm just out of curiosity. Wait a minute, because Abbado did it more than once, but no, not with Vienna. That's right. So it's the Vienna one. He did the first a few times, I think 3 times actually, but these Vienna performances. This is 1969. Of course, count on Cyrus to give us a date, which is really nice of him. Let's take a look at this one and just see and make sure that it's the same one. There it is. 1996, live. It's a different Abbado. They're both the Linz version, I think. But in any case, okay, so this is a different Abbado Bruckner first. It's the other one, the later one. I thought so. And they're all very good. They really are. So you're in good shape. Symphony number 2, I just reviewed because I wanted to get caught up with it. That's the Riccardo Muti one, which I had here. Hang on a minute. Here it is. This was Muti's 75th anniversary and the retirement of the concertmaster. What was his name? Rainer Kuchel or something? I forget what his name was. It doesn't matter. Also with the Strauss Bourgeois Gentilhomme music, which is really better than the Bruckner 2. It's not a bad Bruckner 2. It's a little flabby, as I pointed out. Muti tends to lyricize the music just when it needs to get sort of like chunky and abrupt. And that is sort of a problem. And it's live and it's not particularly well recorded. So it's not as good as Horst Stein, who is in this box. But you see here, they didn't want to duplicate any conductors. It's one conductor per symphony. Here, they weren't so concerned with that. They just really went for the better performances, which is always a good idea. Anyway, so number 3, here we have Haitink. Haitink's digital Bruckner third, which is very, very good. He uses the Ozer edition, which is interesting. It's a little longer than the Novak, the Novak that people generally use. Now, of course, they use the original version, which is endless. Anyway, so it's a very good performance. It really is, compared to Karl Böhm Vienna, which is also a really good performance. So that's a tie, let's just say. For number 4, They both have Carl Böhm. I mean, that's just such an iconic version, such a classic recording. It has to be there, doesn't it? Number 5, they both have Lorin Maazel. Now, Lorin Maazel's Bruckner Fifth is okay. It's not special. It's not the best in the world, and the Vienna Philharmonic kind of conks out at the end during the big chorale. It's not a great Bruckner Fifth. It's not a terrible Bruckner Fifth. It's not bizarre as Maazel tends to be, but there aren't that many Vienna Bruckner Fives. There just aren't. So maybe this was the best they could do. There's a Haitink, I think, isn't there? Yes, there is. That's also not a great Bruckner Fifth either. So, what the heck? They both have Maazel. Then we've got number 6. So for number 6, they both have Horst Stein, an excellent Bruckner Sixth. It really is. And there's not many choices for Bruckner Sixth with Vienna either. So they had to use Horst Stein in something here. And so they used Muti for the second, especially because he's already on DG, which was a mistake, and Horst Stein for the 6th. I think you should have used Horst Stein for both, as they did here on Decca, not just because he's a fine conductor, but because his discography isn't that large, and I think it's important to preserve it, especially for people who haven't gotten this thing or may miss it. So there you go. Horst Stein. Number 7. Now, 7, 8, 9 here are really first rate. 7 is Karajan, his last recording, I think it was, or his very almost last recording. It's terrific. It's absolutely terrific. It's gorgeous. It's beautiful. It's well recorded. It's first rate. 8 is Boulez, the one from St. Florian, the live one, which was a shocker because everyone thought, oh, we can't do Bruckner. It's spiritual, and it's Boulez, and it's a very, very fine performance. It really is. Bruckner is a good composer for Boulez because he writes music in chunks. He's not a sonata form composer, and especially in his late works, particularly. And so Boulez is good at chunky music. He plays Messiaen. He plays all this modern stuff where you just have sound blocks that alternate. Well, that's what Bruckner does. So he does it, and it's splendid. And then we've got Bruckner 9. We've got the Giulini. Now here, 7 and 8, let's catch up, pardon me, were Schulte. And this was interesting because these are 2 of Schulte's better Bruckner performances, and they were early, and they were outgunned by his Chicago remakes, which aren't as good. They really aren't. So this was a wonderful opportunity to go back and hear Schulte's 7th and 8th, and the 7th is particularly fine. So they weren't bad either, but I would much rather have the Boulez 8th, I think, than the Schulte. And at the end, for the 9th, you have Giulini versus Zubin Mehta. The Mehta is an iconic performance, a classic. It's youthful Mehta. It's exciting. It's eruptive. The Giulini is just the opposite. It's broad and grand and oh so spiritual. A very different concept of the work, but they're equally valid. So what have you got? It's a very good Bruckner cycle by and large. The duds, like I said, there are no duds, but the less fine things. The Muti 2nd, the Maazel 5th, and the rest of it, it's nothing not to love. So yeah, it's really good. And the nice thing about it is that, with all the Bruckner stuff that's coming out for the Bruckner year and all that, and so much of which is quite mediocre, second rate, we have a really fine Vienna Bruckner cycle. But then again, so's this. And since they share, let me see, what do they share? Well, the Abbado is the conductor, not the performance. So let's give them a pass. They have the Carl Böhm 4th, the Maazel 5th, the Horst Stein 6th. So they really share 4, 5, and 6. Everything else is different. And 4, 5, and 6 are major Bruckner. So it really depends on how much duplication you want. The choice is yours. So keep on listening, friends. Thanks for joining me. Take care.